नमस्कार, गुड मॉर्निंग टू एवरीवन। मेरा नाम रवि गुप्ता है। मैं इलेट्स टेक्नो मीडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड का सीईओ हूँ। हम लोग इनोवेशंस के फील्ड पर पिछले 17 साल से काम कर रहे हैं और हम लोग 4 प्रमुख मैगजीन्स निकालते हैं। एक मैगजीन है जो हमारी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट मैगजीन ई गवर्नेंस पे है, जो गवर्नेंस में इनोवेशंस पे जो केस स्टडीज है, आइडिया जो उसके बारे में हम लोग हर महीने मैगजीन निकालते हैं। और नेक्स्ट मंथ इज अवर 200th इशू ऑफ ई मैगजीन। उसके अलावा हम लोग एक मैगजीन निकालते हैं जिसका नाम है ई हेल्थ, जो हेल्थ केयर इनोवेशंस पे बात करती है। एक मैगजीन है हमारी डिजिटल लर्निंग, जो आईसीटी इन एजुकेशन पे फोकस है। और एक और मैगजीन है हमारी बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंस पोस्ट। और ये जो हम लोग वेबिनार कर रहे हैं आज, ये इसका फोकस है what is the importance and role of smart cities in handling the situation like COVID-19. And we have with us a very eminent speaker with us, Dr. Rajendra Jagtap, who is Indian Defence State Service official, and he was the CEO of Pune Smart City for last 2.5 years. And earlier he was the Assistant Municipal Commissioner of Pune Municipal Corporation, and he has been handling several other administrative positions in the government for several years. तो नमस्कार राजेंद्र जी, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका इस कार्यक्रम में।
नमस्ते रवि जी।
नमस्कार।
A very good afternoon to everybody.
तो Dr. Rajendra Jagtap ji, before we start getting into the technical details of the smart city, I will request you to talk about a bit about your education, your career, and how you, why you thought about joining the Indian Government Services. What was your aspiration to do that? Yeah.
Ji Ravi ji, if we talk about government service per se, I've been brought up and born in the city of Pune, and I've gone my education in a boarding school in Panchgani called Sanjeevan Vidyalaya. Post which I was fortunate enough to be passed out from the Ferguson College, Pune, as well as the College of Agriculture, Pune. After which I did my MBA in Delhi, and it was during this MBA stint that I pursued for my UPSC examination. To move towards the government service in UPSC, if you look at it, it was something which was imbibed into me by my father, who was a politician and an agriculturist, who was very keen that with the kind of social work that he has been doing with his stint and tenure in politics, he wanted that I should be aligned more with the government job, where there were opportunities to work quite closely with the citizens at large, and a lot of public good could be achieved out of it. So it was he who inspired me to join the public services, and this is how I was selected in the 2000 examination of Indian Civil Services of UPSC, and I joined the Indian Defence State Service, and I've been working with the cantonment boards initially, and for the last 7 odd years with the government of Maharashtra, with my stint as additional commissioner in Pune as well as the Pune Smart City.
Great. You have worked with the Pune Municipal Corporation and also as the CEO of the Pune Smart City. And you have seen the challenges of running a city very, very closely. And when you would have joined the Pune Smart City as a CEO, I think the Smart City mission was in its infancy. It was just a beginning. So tell us about your journey as the Smart City CEO. What challenges you incurred in establishing that organization itself and doing the initial projects, because that is the hardest part of building an organization when you are starting to build up the organization itself.
So when we talk about the Smart Cities mission per se, there were a few guidelines that were issued by the Government of India. Quite a unique kind of a system and a new kind of a impetus was introduced, wherein for the first time, there were no DPRs and projects per se for funding of the central government scheme. Here we had a unique kind of an intervention where a competition among 100 odd cities was undertaken for the first time. And based on what kind of smart city plan is prepared by each of the cities through citizen engagement was the parameters based on which the selection took place. So if we look into the overall system of selection of the cities and how this went about, I was at that moment of time working as the additional municipal commissioner in Pune, along with my commissioner, Dr. Kunal Kumar sir, who is presently the mission director for smart cities in Delhi. And we saw that we imbibed and looked for something quite new kind of intervention that could happen for the city of Pune. And based on citizen engagement, we prepared a very good plan, and we got selected in the first list, second to be precise, just after Bhubaneswar. But Pune was lucky to have the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Ji Modi to launch our the smart city project mission per se for the whole of India from the city of Pune. And in the last 4 odd years, the city has stood its time, and the smart city could evolve as an independent organization, as a special purpose vehicle for the city of Pune, where available funds of to the tune of almost 500 crores from the central government, 250 crores from the state, and 250 crores from the city of Pune, amounting to about 1,000 odd crores. We put in across more than 80 odd big and small projects, amounting to about 1,100 odd crores into the pipeline for tendering stage. And till last December, we were able to put across more than 48 projects amounting to close to around 780 crores into the pipeline. The one big initiative that is quite distinct to Pune was when we start with a new organization and a new setup, we have to put in a new office in place, a new team into place, a new set of consultants, new ideas and projects that are to be undertaken. And again, when we talked about the smart cities mission, was the funds came first and the projects came later. So it is quite distinct and different than most of the projects and proposals or things that have been funded by the central government, where a DPR, that is a detailed project report, is prepared for a project. It is analyzed and approved by the state government, and finally it gets its assent from the central government, and then the funds flow. Here the funds came before, and we had to set up as per the needs of the city as to how these funds are to be utilized in the proper way. And we were able to do to a much larger extent in the city of Pune. There's one quite distinct project that we would like to highlight here. Was Pune was the first smart city under the Smart Cities Fund who could set up the integrated command and control center out of its smart city funds. And this was an initiative which was followed up by more than 50 odd smart cities all across India as of now. And we see that about 45 cities have been able to utilize this integrated command control center and set up it as its war room for the present fight against Corona and COVID.
Excellent. So you mentioned about the very interesting shift which has happened here, that first you got the funds and then you were thinking about how to utilize, and you had the guidelines for that. So that shows that how much serious was the government to implement this project in a fast track manner. Now, as you mentioned about this integrated command and control center, so please give an idea about like what is this integrated command and control center means, and why it has been replicated across several cities, and what are its advantages to a city.
So if you look at the integrated command and control center, when we look at most of the cities, the city in its silo, departmental wise or various departments of the corporation per se, or even the state government, were developing their own IT infrastructure different. So for the traffic, you had your own kind of a development for the developed by the traffic police. The fire department had its own kind of a system that was in place. The municipal transportation had its own kind of system in place, and all these things were not integrated into a common whole where it could be utilized for a situation like this. When we talk about disaster management per se, long-term planning for the city, getting into a lot of various data inputs for future planning, and something which becomes very much integral and important aspect of the city. So integrating all these smaller command and control centers which were in different silos into one common whole, and getting it for the city per se, and making it thing available for the common citizens was something which was thought about in this integrated command and control center. Like Pune visualized what best could be achieved, we tried to integrate what was available with the police, the municipal transportation, the corporation, and then we put in some integral aspects of into the command and control center, which was basically the physical room with all the data and everything that was in place, the network that was required for the city, and putting in hotspots for Wi-Fi or the VMDs that were that is usually used for displaying of messages or the public addressing system into place. Now this integrated command and control center has been utilized in the last one and a half years for various different activities. We were able to track to a larger extent of what happened during the floods that happened in Pune last year. We have a lot of data from the environment sensors that are available with us in the last 1.5 years, which gives us different parameters of pollution parameters, the weather, as well as the environmental parameters of various aspects. Along with that, a lot of inputs that have been coming from citizens and everything. The transportation data that is available on a day-to-day basis. But the most important thing that we are able to see is that Pune, along with other smart cities, have been able to put this integrated command control center and develop it as a war room, not just for the city of Pune, but for the whole district per se, which is now integrated and talks not just with the city and its citizens, but also with the state government and the central government.
And this imaging ICCC model, which was conceptualized by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and implemented by several smart cities across India, as you mentioned. How is this getting used in this COVID-19 situation? I think, like as a smart city CEO, you have worked in this city of Pune, and you are in touch with several other cities. So how are you listening to the other cities, that how are they using this infrastructure for the COVID-19 situation?
So like I mentioned is, these integrated command and control centers in more than 45 different cities are today functioning as war rooms. And most of the cities have been able to create different dashboards, which is helping them to monitor individual cases, identifying areas, sectors, and mapping them within the cities. So decisions pertaining to sealing of a particular area and everything is something which has been taken care of in a much larger way. There have been smaller apps that have been developed and which have been integrated with this kind of a system. There is the war rooms, where city like Agra have developed an e-Doctor Seva app or a lockdown monitoring app. There are vehicle passes that have been issued by various cities through the command and control center and various apps which are there. DigiThane in Thane is something which is interacting medium between the citizens and the city per se, dissipating a lot of information which is essential in today's thing, and as well as a 24/7 helpline that has been established by most of the cities, help desks that have come up. And here we can see that this interaction that is happening between citizens, between the municipal administration, the police, the health department, the state government and everything is happening in a much more coordinated and cooperative manner to help to fight against the COVID epidemic that has come up on a much larger scale. So this integrated command control center has been rightly put into use, and we can see that different cities every passing day have been adopting and bringing it into a much larger utilization, quite innovatively and a unique way.
And what you think has been the changes which has been brought because of the smart city initiative in the Pune city itself?
So when we talk about Pune city, Raviji, what has happened is Pune city did have its own disaster management system that was in place, which was working from the Pune Municipal Corporation building. But the kind of inputs and the sensors with the kind of network and backup that is required as a physical infrastructure, as well as the IT infrastructure, came through the integrated command and control center. Again, when we talk about the disaster management network that was available in the Pune Municipal Corporation almost 3 years back, was something which interacted with the district collector per se, and during floods with the irrigation department. But today, we can see that there is an integration not just with the district administration, but the police per se. We have been able to link up about more than 100 odd officials from the Pune Municipal Corporation, almost all police stations, hospitals, healthcare systems, as well as ex-officials and various industry people who have become a part of this fight against the COVID-19 in the city of Pune. So inputs have been welcome on a much larger scale from various areas, and we can see that various sectors and sections of the government, as well as corporates, private institutions, NGOs, are integrating to fight this whole kind of system. Now what has happened is, probably the city of Pune, even though which has a budget of 5,000 plus crores for the last 2 odd years with good revenues, was not able to put across such kind of a system before the coming of the smart cities. You leave aside other cities that I'm talking about, especially outside Maharashtra, Gujarat, who do not have that amount of funds which are required to set up an integrated command and control center. It is not just that there is no will to do it or no dedication to do it. However, the amount of revenue and the expenditure, they do not cope up and match up. There are some physical infrastructural needs which are defined by the local corporators, which are much higher than probably letting aside or keeping aside the funds for setting up something like this, which is going to be utilized in kind of emergency, or it is something much more futuristic for the city's youth. So they say basic needs should be addressed first rather than looking at this. So the smart cities came up with this extra funds that could put in such kind of an impetus, especially as per the needs of the modern developments that are happening, especially in the IT industry, in the communication, networking, and the needs of the cities to integrate and associate itself more with the citizens as well as the outside world.
Interesting. So you are saying that smart city gave that impetus and that push forward for IT enablement of various initiatives in a municipal corporation setting. How do you see this smart city initiative different from the older initiatives like JAIN, URM, or other Government of India programs which were defined for the urban areas? How is smart city program different from those programs?
So very, very good and a very valid point and issue that is raised by you. There's something which is quite distinct. The first thing is, we had the JNURM or the present Amrut schemes or other government schemes, which give and the fund for a physical infrastructure development for the needs of the city. So it's more specifically for the roads, the transportation, the water supply, drainage, and other allied or solid waste and other allied activities where you have the funds which come in. Vis-a-vis the smart cities, where a lot of impetus again is on ensuring that a lot of IT infrastructure is added on to the city. Again, the second point is the missions that were under JNURM and Amrut pass on the funds to the local municipal corporation per se, which again are utilized for the physical infrastructure like I talked about. However, here the Smart Cities Mission insisted on having a special purpose vehicle, a different kind of an entity which is distinct than the municipal corporation, to come up to utilize the funds in the Smart Cities Mission, because there was a smart city plan which was vaguely constituted with the inputs taken from the citizens. However, as per the actual needs, what was to be given? First, the money that is coming from the funds. Second was that money that could be collected under BOT. Third was whatever that would come through various PPP projects, or cities could go in for bonds or municipal bonds or something, some different kind of funding to create this kind of projects. So the smart special purpose vehicle was a unique and distinct kind of an entity that was created within the city, which would go for implementation of these various projects in a much more faster way, in a much more independent way, and could probably bring in that change which could not ideally be possible in a fast-paced way or in the kind of anticipated way by the local municipal body.
Dr. Rajendra, you have been interacting with like several other smart city CEOs and smart city leaders inside India and even outside India. You have and you are quite aware about like what all is going on in Europe, US in terms of smart cities. And so how has been the Indian smart city journey similar or different from the other cities globally?
So when we look at the global perspective per se, we see that India is placed quite uniquely, where we are a centrally funded, driven kind of a mission vis-a-vis other cities. Globally, most of the smart cities are cities that have a fully developed physical infrastructure in place, and they have been trying to incorporate most of the technologies and the infrastructure to ensure that the municipal administration is much more closely associated with the citizens at large and are able to deliver good services and improve the quality of life. In India, we are still having a very good high rate of urbanization, which is still active, and it's very much the supply and demand between the needs and what we could provide is still very huge. And this gap is something which we have to fill in, where we say that we are still lacking a lot of physical infrastructure. Basic needs of the people are yet to be fulfilled, be it of water, drainage, good clean air, or municipal transportation, traffic, and others. And how can we concentrate upon something that is where we talk about smarting? But it was, again, when I say, a very good initiative by our Honorable Prime Minister, who tried to incorporate and bring about and hand in hand between the physical infrastructural needs and the IT needs of the cities. So rather than arising late to this whole kind of a system, we started quite early, and it was something which was again properly driven by the central government, with a lot of freedom and independence given to the city level at the special purpose vehicle to make best use of these funds, which they founded as per the requirements of the city. So here again, vis-a-vis what happens abroad and what is happening in India, we see a quite big distinction. The second more important point here is there is a set amount of funds which is universal for all cities, setting aside the population base of each of the city or the needs of the city. So city like Pune, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Bhubaneswar, Bhopal, Delhi may have a larger population base with larger needs and everything, compared to smaller cities like Tumkur or Varanasi or say Vijayawada, which are smaller in size, and say places like which may have this 500,000 crores as a huge chunk, places like Port Blair and others. But this is something which we have to stand by and live according to it, that this available 1,000 crore corpus, initially for a period of 5 years, can transform a small city in a much larger scale, but bring in a good enough impetus for a big city like Pune, Ahmedabad, and others. So it's a win-win situation for all. We have to make good of this opportunity that has come to each of the cities and add on to the needs and the infrastructure of the city, utilizing these funds in a much more judicial and proper need, and ensuring that what we adopt and incorporate is as per the needs and requirements of the citizens at large, and ensuring that the infrastructure that is put in is not obsolete and is useful for the city in longer terms and for a longer period of time.
Smart cities are always thought of more of a IT initiatives. Are in the smart city mission, what were the non-IT interventions which were done in Pune or in other cities?
See, when I talk about Pune per se, initially we'd say that besides the non-IT intervention, we had an area development approach where a lot of physical infrastructure development was to take place. So besides the physical infrastructure development of the roads that we took on a larger scale, where we started developing the smart roads in a much more better way. We have almost more than 45 plus kilometers of road which are already in the making, and in all we'll be doing more than 80 kilometers of footpaths. But along with that, we had this placemaking which came up as quite unique and distinct utilization of open spaces or amenity spaces which were into disuse as per the local needs of the citizens. However, there were some other social angles, like we concentrated upon education as one of the factors, where smart schools and provision of good educational facilities in the local municipal schools was something that was incorporated. But ideally, in today's situation, we went in for smart health as one of the aspects which was there. In the area development, we put in across 3 smart clinics, out of which one is functional for almost one odd year. Another 2 have just been set up. The replication of this model of the smart clinics across Pune, where we had planned to put in across 50 such smart clinics, is something which helps in a situation like this. So we have different distinct smaller clinics all across the city, which are again integrated with the command and control center with the data that is being provided and uploaded on a day-to-day basis. Tagging of data, geolocationing, and anticipating any kind of an outbreak or the physical health of the city is something which gets added on with this whole kind of a smart health setup that is there. So areas like health and education are something which has a long-term gain for the city per se. And during this integration, we see that this is something which is there. Besides this, there is one more thing that I'd like to highlight is initiatives that have been taken up by city of Pune as well as some other cities, especially in areas where we are trying to give a boost to the startup industry per se, where ideathons or hackathons were something which were organized along with Niti Aayog, the University of Pune, the College of Engineering Pune. We had participation from universities from abroad. We had the Plus Alliance who came in from Australia, USA and London to the city of Pune, which put forward the concept of having an idyllic urban planning in place. So having these ideathons, hackathons and integrating them to give up again a boost to the startup is something which is quite unique and distinct, which the Pune Smart City did try to do with the an associate company that we have formed, a subsidiary company, which is called the Pune Idea Factory Foundation. So these are something which are quite distinct and different from the normal set IT infrastructure that is there. And I think that such kind of initiatives that have been taken at the city level will help the citizens at large to come forward with various kind of ideas, innovations and technologies that can be put up to use at the city level to benefit the citizens at large.
I think the Pune Smart City took initiatives early on, and I think it has been the front runner in this whole Smart City initiative. And I had also come across the urban data initiative which the Pune Smart City had started, where you were starting to have analytics and urban data intelligence also getting incorporated in the whole city management system. So if you can talk about those initiatives which had started.
Yeah, see, in the city of Pune, we had McKinsey who were our consultants with us, and we had a very good resource in form of Manojit Bose, who was our Chief Knowledge Officer, where we tried to interact with the available integrated command and control center that we had already set up. So since we had a lot of data that was flowing in from various sectors and various areas to this command and control center, this data had to be put into utilization into much more broader perspective, both at the city level as well as to have some kind of a data exchange center at the national level. So the city of Pune, we tied up with the NITI Aayog as well as the Indian IIC Bangalore, where this Indian Urban Data Exchange Center was initiated, and exchange of data and integration of various command and control centers across India was something that was visualized. So data and information is something which is the main feed to have today in the city as well as the national level, which can help us to integrate, analyze, and see the way forward as to what steps are to be taken in a much more logical and in a proper way. And this exchange of urban data, so probably what we have with us, if it is shared with some other city, it helps them to integrate and plan in a much more better way and react to a kind of situation, or in the future it can be something which can be much more proactive rather than just reactive itself. So the Urban Data Exchange program started at the India level along with NITI Aayog and others, and we had the city, Pune city level data exchange also initiative, which is going to help us the city at large. This data is something which, under the open data policy of the Pune Municipal Corporation, is selectively available to a lot of citizens at large, which again can be useful for most of the startups and others to get a hand pertaining to the actual needs of the city, to understand them and come out with new ideas and innovations which may help for improving the quality of life of the citizens in Pune per se.
Okay, Rajendra, are there any examples where non-smart cities, which besides the 100 smart cities which were mandated by the government of India, non-smart cities got inspired by the smart city initiatives, and they started some similar initiatives in their own states or cities? Like, are there any examples?
Yeah. If you look at it, there are smaller towns and everything who have tried to pick up smaller initiatives in various areas. You have a small hill station called Panchgani in Maharashtra. My hometown there is called Saswad, which are smaller urban areas which have tried to incorporate a lot of technological inputs and smart way of handling their solid waste. And they have been able to get a recognition both at the state level as well as the national level for such kind of inputs. Now, when we come across various cities, there are inputs pertaining to some who have gone ahead for improvisation of cleaning of their water waste and everything in a much more unique and distinct way. So the city of Bombay, who has been out of the whole setup of smart cities, is adopting or is trying to incorporate an integrated traffic management system on more than about 600 plus signals, with a project costing more than 1,000 odd crores. So there are initiatives which happened before or in those cities which are outside the smart city purview, but have been adopting and incorporating new ideas and new initiatives of technology where things are not yet fully being utilized by the smart cities per se. So there are a lot of learnings from small cities who have come up and everything. We had an initiative in Maharashtra itself before the coming of the smart cities, where the Municipal Corporation of Kalyan Domboli was able to incorporate a different kind of an e-governance setup, which was widely adopted by the government of Maharashtra for more than 200 plus municipal bodies in the state. We had the Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, who under the GNRM had come up with a very good system of citizen complaint management, where their Sarchi setup was something which the then Commissioner Shrikar Pardeshi was able to adopt, not just in Pune, but also in Nanded in his earlier stint. So you have a lot of initiatives in various aspects that have been taken up by local officers per se in individual towns as per the needs and requirements, which even though outside the smart city are something which could be replicated and still incorporated into the whole system.
I will request you to look at your screen. There are some questions on your screen, so if you can look at and answer those which are relevant.
So I have not yet been able to see those questions. I think if you can read aloud.
Okay. Like if you go down on the screen, like there's a button called Q&A. Like, can you see that? एक बार देखिए. There are two buttons. One is Q&A, the other is chat.
I think, let me see. I'm not able to get it.
Bottom of the screen. There's a button called participants. Then there is a Q&A, and then there is a chat.
Yeah. I think I can see about 11.
Yes.
So what would you like to suggest to smart cities which are not able to use the ICC properly in fighting COVID-19? So here again, a very good question that smart cities which have not been able to utilize the ICC properly is integrated command and control center is something that cannot be set up overnight. And when we talk about smart cities per se, this is an infrastructure which will be useful and something which will help us to fight in a much more conclusive and cohesive way. But cities have come up with smaller initiatives like setting up different apps. Like there is an e-Doctor Seva app. There are vegetable and grocery delivery apps. You have a campaign in Ahmedabad which is called the Namaste Ahmedabad campaign, which has come up in a much more better way. So there are initiatives which can still happen besides the ICCC, and cities have been trying to incorporate, getting much more closer, getting across information through an SMS messaging delivery system or something which has already been undertaken. So I think they should be able to answer this question. Again, we got one more question from Ramesh Babu, where he says there are few smart city projects in progress. Does this COVID impact demand for reforms in the ongoing project proposed? If so, in what categories of project? Yes, rightly put out, Ramesh ji. What I can see is that the COVID impact and demand for reforms, when we see, it's a unique and a distinct kind of an problem through the pandemic that has come up and hit us. It's not just India per se or the cities, but the whole world that we can see. Now here, when we had the project of the Integrated Command and Control Center, you could see that we put across a lot of variable message display. That is the video walls across the city. The city of Pune put in across almost 135 plus. We had more than 135 public addressing systems, and we see that there's nobody on the road to interact with. So a strong channel of social media, a website, and interaction of the citizens is also that much essential, along with what kind of messages that we usually had incorporated and anticipated. So that were especially with the issues of giving out or passing on messages to the citizens on the road during traffic, about their movement, about an incident. So that is on miss today. There's nobody on the road. So the infrastructure and the network that has been put up on the road today is of not much use when we see that an epidemic like or the pandemic like COVID is on the street. So here we can see that the other angle of interacting and getting together with the citizens on a one-to-one basis through various different mediums is something which becomes essential. So that is where we say a city project has to look at that aspect. Second is one more when we think and see about this whole issue, not just with COVID per se, we see that our preparedness for disaster management is something which has to be much more incorporated and thought about. A concentration on the area and good spending on health sector is something that becomes much more essential and important, and which cannot be neglected at large. It's not just the physical infrastructure of roads, bridges, flyovers, metros, is going to suffice the city at large. But looking at the social angles of health, education, and everything becomes of primary importance. Let me look at another question. So we have one from Shri K.C. Mishra ji. He says, in your view, what would be the new economic normal going forward? Now, probably this may not be the right forum, or I may not be the right intellectual person to comment much large on the economic aspect per se, but I would see at the city level as well as the national and international level a larger impact on the country, on the state, on the city, on the family and individual is going to happen. A lot of non-formal sector is today out of job. There are a lot of activities which are not happening on a day-to-day basis. The day-to-day transactions that usually take place in big and small currencies have stopped altogether. And the kind of shutdown, trade, transportation, and everything, besides the consumption of a basic needs of food and health, everything all has got impacted on a much larger scale. To recover and come out of it is something which will take time. And it is very early to predict anything on this whole issue. And I think the government will be able to support a large amount of sectors in this whole issue as such. I think, Raviji, I'll take just one more last question out of this.
Sure.
Here again, there's a good question by Prashant Hiran. He talks about Pune has been at the forefront in the smart cities mission. Please share how the city is planning for the sustainability of the IT, non-IT infrastructure assets being created under the mission. How is city planning to ensure operations, maintenance, and governance systems post the mission is over? Again, a very valid question. What we think in the larger aspect is most of the physical infrastructure that is being prepared under the smart cities will pass on to the local municipal corporations per se. But the IT infrastructure and assets that have been created, probably if the company lasts after the mission, should be able to undertake and take it forward, because most of the projects that have been are being done under the smart cities have a maintenance period of 3 to 5 years that has been inbuilt into the whole project per se. But what after 3 or 5 years? So the smart city itself is something which, as a special purpose vehicle, is an entity that the city has to accept, and probably it can become gradually an integral part of the city to develop its IT infrastructure in future. So an area in concentration about any kind of IT intervention that is required in the city by the municipal corporation, by the police, municipal transportation, or any other government entity or body can ideally happen through the smart city per se. So what happens is the best available consultancy can be adopted, brought into place. Good interaction and cohesion between various sectors can be undertaken, and probably implementations of these things can happen in the longer term. However, there is no clear-cut guidelines from the central government or the state government pertaining to the assets as to how they are to be handled in the future post the mission. We still have 1.5 years to go. Let us hope for the best. If there are some funds that come from the central government in the future, or the smart cities on its own, with the support of the local bodies, are able to maintain or develop some kind of financial system to maintain this infrastructure over a period of time, or else the city, this burden is something which the city has to take on its own. I think since there are a lot of questions still coming in, we could see that there's something that's from Chand Asaf, who talks about smart city model to be incorporated for a place like Coimbatore. Luckily, what has happened is the city of Coimbatore already is a smart city, and we could see a lot of good initiatives that were taken up by the commissioner and the CEO of the Coimbatore Smart City in the last 1.5 years. Besides the physical infrastructure and the roads that were there, Coimbatore was quite early along with Pune to set up the public bicycle sharing and the other initiatives, and the IT infrastructure along with the ICC, that is the Integrated Command and Control Center. So hopefully, I see that almost all 100 cities are moving towards the common goal of attaining the betterment of the citizens, improving the quality of life, and ensuring and integrating that they themselves come up as a network of good smart cities for good governance, which get integrated with the respective state governments as well as at the central level, which will help to bring in the much needed introspection and focus on other aspects of urban development that is happening globally, especially in the sphere of IT, and how technology itself can be a kind of a tool to bring in the new kind of development and the impetus or the engine of the innovation being the engine of the new urban areas that is to come up. Raviji.
Any other question which you want to address, or?
I think I've been able to cover up about 7 or 8 out of the total questions. I can see another 22 which have come up. So I'll just glance through a few of them. And,
yeah, like you can combine questions and actually.
Yeah. Very true. So we have questions that have come up from Chandigarh also, which talks about innovative solutions to meet the COVID crisis and what kind of fund issues are facing in this time of crisis. Now, when we talk about this, there is something about IT. Prashant Hiran, who talks about IT infrastructure. We have Shri Mahesh Pathak and Shrikant Kabale from Pune itself, who talked about GIS-based COVID-19 module support by Unity, where they have been able to use a lot of drones and other mechanisms for various aspects. And we see that a lot of drones and crowdsourcing is something that has been utilized by a lot of cities to keep in an eyes for the mobility and movement of various things in Pune. So here again, now we talk about an opportunity the pandemic brings. There's something quite unique put up by Jyotindra Nikam, where you see any kind and every kind of a problem brings its threats and opportunities that come into play. Today, presently, fighting this whole epidemic and this aspect which has come up as a threat for us is something which we have to face. And again, since there is no cure, which we see as an opportunity here to be developed by scientists at large and various agencies, if we are trying to come up with a cure in form of a vaccine or something, probably is the biggest opportunity that anybody can have in this kind of situation. Again, how we can fight, restrain ourselves, safeguard ourselves, there are opportunities which are hidden in that. You could see that few of the cities came up with a very small kind of a solution which was critical at times, be it pertaining to where we say that a small kind of tunnels were created which could help for sanitization of workers when they move through it. So we saw that the first people to come up on this kind of an opportunity were corporates who were into manufacturing of some kind, and costs were in the range of 2 lakh plus. But over a period of time, there were innovations by new startups which brought down the cost and the need which was there. And gradually we could come up with innovations which we usually call jugaad in North India, where any kind of system with water pumps, sprinklers and everything came up. So it was kind of an application of mind looking at what best could be done in this kind of situation. How much useful it is or not, it's not useful is not something which is important, but we could see that new innovations and things are coming up. Like we talked about innovations in which already existed, say delivery of fruits and vegetables. You have farmers help groups now who are directly selling vegetables and fruits in Bombay and Pune into the societies, where basic things that were already in use, but they were with companies who are professionally into delivery of foods and items and everything. But here now we have a farmers group which gets their demand and on WhatsApp and everything, and they're able to supply to one specific area the requirement of food. So opportunity is big and small for all things to come in future. A large investment will be seen in the area of health in the future time to come, and we can see that cities have to be prepared for such kind of an emergencies and such kind of requirements in the future. So our planning, our designing has to move in these factors in this area. So like post 9/11 or 26/11, we saw that with the rise of overall the kind of crime and the impact of the threats of bombings and others, we could see that the security system innovated, and there was an opportunity where you have security systems that were installed at the entrance of each of the public places that we visit. The kind of checking that came up in the airports and everything, where we had the CISF who were usually there for the safety of the industries coming and taking over the airports and everything all across India. So a kind of a threat gives an opportunity of new kind of an industry, innovation, new needs which is there. Probably COVID, once we are able to grasp the overall impact of it on a city, an individual, a family, in the economy, is where to overcome that, there may be a different kind of opportunity that will be coming up over a period of time. I think I'll just look at one more question here. Here again, there's a question which has come up here from Mr. Rahul, who's very keen and wants to understand as to what will be the needs of the citizens that have to be identified by the city, or is it just the government that is going to take up and run? Okay, I could not make out the whole question per se, but what I can understand is again in this whole setup, the government here again is something, especially the state government and the local self-government is something which is at the forefront fighting for you. We have to understand whatever guidelines and issues that have been issued by the government has to be followed by us in the full spirit that is required. Because today, like we said, there is no cure for this present pandemic against corona, and the COVID-19 does not identify an individual or a person by his class, creed, race, religion, or anything. It is going to affect one and all, everybody. So whatever safeguards and safety measures that have been propagated and put into use are for the benefit of us all. We should be out of the home only for essential and things without which we cannot do at home as of now. Staying away from everything is something is which is very important. तो समझदारी और अकल इसी में है कि भाई जो गवर्नमेंट हमें जो कह रहा है, हमें जो इशारे दे रहा है, वो हम लोगों ने समझना और उस तरीके से पालना बहुत जरूरी है. When we compare ourselves with most of the other countries abroad, we can see where we stand today vis-a-vis when they were with us. So bigger countries, especially in the West, like USA, Spain, and Germany, Italy, have not been able to cope up with this whole thing. Luckily, if you look at the total numbers and figures that speak in India as of now, we have been able to cut down or ensure that the bell is flattened for the whole curve which is there. And we are hopeful that if the citizens follow what the Honorable Prime Minister or the respective CMs in their states have been telling and cooperate with the health workers and the police people, we'll be able to fight over and overcome this whole issue. ये वक्त और ये दिन भी जाएंगे, अच्छे दिन वापस आएंगे. रवि जी.
Yes, we can almost close here, and before I do that, sir, एक सवाल मेरे दिमाग में कि how has been the IT industry? What has been the role of Indian IT industry in building of smart cities? इसके बारे में.
So when you look at the overall IT industry per se, you could see that when the cities went in for their needs and requirement pertaining to the IT infrastructure that was required at large, we could see that what we had in India were a lot of software giants who had much more meeting out needs and requirements of a lot of cities, corporates outside the country. It was abroad. It was centric kind of a growth and needs that they were doing. When we started to ask for things, we could see that we went for quite a unique and distinct kind of way where we identified what kind of solutions we required, not the product per se, and to have solutions for our problems is where we incorporated or got in different kinds of softwares and technologies towards through an system integrator. So there were different ICs or various technologies which could be brought in, and so like setting up an integrated command and control center required networks which came from different people, hardware which came from different people, different kinds of platforms and dashboards, different kinds of software that was required, integrating a lot of things, having an analytical model and things which were there, which came from various producers, various aspects, various industries and everything through a common integration system. Again, what we could see is that while incorporating and undertaking different kinds of areas, the second aspect is the IT industry looked at the overall potential of close to 100 cities into about 1,000 crores. You can see the total market that was available in India for such kind of a system that was there. And we could see that a lot of IT industries incorporated, started and shifted their overall vision and need and requirement towards this smart city per se. Since Pune was something which started quite early, if you look at it, we were looking at different solutions, and we saw that Tata had different silos of different companies that were there. You had the Tata Auto, the telco, which was with the automobile sector. You had the TCE that was with a different sector. You had Tata Electric, which had a different kind of setup. So what happened is there were different silos of Tatas which were available and everything, and each of them had a different kind of solution that was to be incorporated and everything. And gradually, it's after about 2 odd years that we see that after interaction, that Tata put up one single console of Tata Smart per se, where they themselves integrated a lot of things within themselves, and they started portraying themselves as a common sourcing kind of a medium, as a solution provider towards the problem areas that we have identified. We could see that a lot of IT companies, big and small, who have started looking towards this whole sector and area. However, while looking at the IT industry per se, what we could see across was the introduction of ideathons and hackathons on a much larger scale. This also is started to give up a fillip to the small startups who are coming up with very innovative and ideal solutions. So areas besides the integrated command and control center, requirement of drones and various services that are there, how crowdsourcing can be brought into information building, how analytics of various things can come up, and smaller apps that are happening in thousands and thousands of applications across various cities is something which has to be seen on a much larger scale. So there are smaller solutions that come up almost every third day, and I'm hopeful that this smart solutions that come up by this new innovation and new entrepreneurs may last the total time requirement and length, and they be test in this environment, and they will gain the much needed success that is there is needed in the future. So the IT industry in India that was much more export oriented or looking towards most of the work outside the country, through the smart cities got a larger chunk of vision and areas to develop within the whole country as such, with 100 new hotspots of the smart cities that are very keen to grab new technologies and new solutions which they can make available.
And did that lead to employment generation in this sector?
So this is something which I think which will speak over a period of time. So when we talk about employment generation, there is a direct employment generation that the smart cities purses can provide. If you look at one area of consultancy, the amount of consultancy that has come up into 100 odd cities is something which is quite huge and vast, which nowhere existed in the government setup before. These consultants, so we have new companies, new consultants, besides the big four, who are working with various smart cities. Is a new kind of an employment that we can see it. There's a direct employment in form of employees that have been taken up on by the smart cities on contract basis, who have been working in various spheres, be it IT, non-IT, in other technical areas. Besides that, you have a larger chunk of indirect employment that comes in by deployment and delivering of projects that are happening all across the cities, where say if the city of Pune is doing more than 50 projects, you can look at an average of that much multiplied by 100 odd cities. So in the coming, the last 2-3 years or the coming 2-3 years, we can see in this 5 years, the total amount of funds and the projects that run out of it, along with not just the capex but the opex part, will ensure an employment to a much larger chunk of citizens, both in the technical and the non-technical sphere of IT as well as civil infrastructure.
Right. So I think we can end this interaction here. I think you have given a great overview of this whole journey of Pune Smart City and overall smart city development in the nation. And I think many of us who have been interacting with the smart city projects and this whole initiative have a much comprehensive perspective after listening to your experience in this.
Yeah. Thank you, Raviji. Thank you, Raviji. It was a good opportunity to interact and know what all is happening across and share whatever we could. Thank you very much.
And before I just end it, I would request you to give your impressions about the work we are doing at ILETS and any suggestions for improvement of our work.
Like always, we could see that ILETS is an organization which has been actively passing on dissipation, information and knowledge through its various media channels, be it the magazines that they come out with. They have been very interactive and very helpful in organizing various conferences all across India in various sectors of development and areas which are quite innovative and new. Along with that, Shri Raviji has been able to bring in a lot of various sections of society, be it from officials to the industry to the corporate, good educationists and technical people together to come out with common solutions, be it at city level, at state level, or even at national level. And I hope that this good work of ILETS continues in the future, and the city, the state, as well as the country as a whole benefit out of this whole experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I request all the audience to please share this very educative video on your Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. I think this is like going to help everyone in this urban development and smart city community. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you.